Thank you for staying with Citizen Weekend. On the governor's seat tonight, I have with me Dr. David Nkedianye, Governor, Kajiado County. Dr. thank you very much for finding time to be with us tonight.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Let's begin with the figures and the numbers that we're looking at when we talk about Kajiado County. Revenue allocation, 3.5 billion. Revenue collections, 517 million. Budget, 4 billion. And a budget surplus of 9 billion. Kajiado County has been named one of the richest counties previously. Let's talk about how the budget surplus came into being and what plans you have in terms of development for the county.
Thank you, Lillian. We have worked very hard to think through the issues in Kajiado, especially in regard to the budget. And it's actually true. We got, or we are getting 3.5, and we will get another. We'll collect about another 0.5 of a billion, and that's going to get us something close to 4 billion shillings. What we have done is that about 30% of that is going to development. The other is going to be recurrent expenditure, that is salaries and whatever you. And the reason we had a surplus, and this we have to be very careful when talk about a surplus, is that we actually didn't have a deficit, because we have tried to balance what we want to spend against what we get. And we said in this first year we are not borrowing. But we want to use prudently whatever we are getting. We know in the next years we will be able to collect more money. But for now, what we are trying to do is to start with what we have, to start where we found it, and that is why we have that small surplus. Yeah.
And we'll be touching on your priority issues. But before we get into that, the county has been faced with perennial issues of flooding, and at least 10 people perished early this year in separate incidents. What plans do you have to ensure that even when there are floods, we don't see displacement and we see the drainage system working properly? And we'll be touching on the fact that garbage disposal is a serious issue in many parts of the county.
Thank you. The issue of perennial flooding is actually an eyesore in Kajiado. But let me just put this straight, that we have roads that are under the Kenya National Highways Authority. Magadi Road, for example, that goes all the way to Magadi. We have other roads that will fall under Kura and Kera. But what we are doing is that we're working closely with both Kenya National Highways Authority to work on some areas in Kiserian, in Ngoroi, in areas like Kamukuru towards Magadi, where there has been flooding and the river has, taken a different course. And we are working closely with Magadi there to actually, we are spending money there to make sure that the river is diverted back on course so that we don't have this flooding, where, cars can be cut off from the other side for, 2-3 days, and people can almost starve. So we are working closely with the authorities that are in charge, because not everything has been devolved. You may know that Kura and Kera still are keeping their money, and the Kenya National Highways Authority is not devolved. So it's still under the national government, but we are working closely with them to make sure that we solve that problem. Yeah,
and I like that you touched on that, that some of these functions are still under the national government, because one of the questions that's coming in is the state of roads in Kajiado County. Isinya, Kiserian Road, Ongata Rongai, Magadi Road, which remains very narrow, Kerarapon Road yet to be tarmacked, and Bulbul Road also yet to be tarmacked. So you say that you are currently in talks with the relevant authorities to ensure that some of these issues are addressed.
Some of those, Bulbul and Kerarapon, that one we will fix, and we have plans to work with that, with the Nairobi metropolitan area, and part of the funds we have we will put there. But Isinya Road, Kiserian Road, those ones are different. We are working with the relevant authorities to make sure that work is completed.
What are you doing currently, and are you in talks to curb illegal land deals? We know that there's been serious issues in parts of Kajiado, such as Kitengela, and indeed the larger Kajiado County.
Yes, I think when we look at, you put this in perspective, and we look at Kajiado in the context of the whole country. And it's either number 2 or number 3 in terms of issues of land grabbing and land mismanagement and land broking, and we have a lot of issues. What we have done is that our county assembly has taken that up. They have moved a motion. They have brought that to our executive, and we have acted on that. And so what we are going to do is to make sure there is a proper audit, and we are working closely with the National Land Commission to make sure that we get a proper land management board. But even before that, it's very likely we are going to do a moratorium on land subdivisions, because very many people have been conned of their money, because you have a title and somebody else has a title. And I want to urge everybody out there to be very careful. Make sure when you come to buy land, you go through a lawyer and you make sure that the proper transaction is done. So don't just rush and say it's very easy and you are going to get it through. You could be falling into a trap.
Right. A question that's coming in, what plans do you have for Ngong Town development? It's a rapidly growing town in terms of population and residentials, but has no public drainage system, side roads, and has a rapidly growing rubbish dump and slum right in its center. And I think regarding the dumping waste, the dumping menace, Ongata Rongai also being mentioned, Kitengela Town also being mentioned. We had touched on the garbage menace in parts of the county, which remain an eyesore.
Yes, they do remain an eyesore because they were left for a long time to become so. But we have done something since we came on board. What I have done for Ngong, for example, is that I promised those people that I was going to fix the problem with the dump site. Actually, 2 months after I was in power, I sent a dozer there. If you go to the dump site now, most of it, about 90%, is fixed. We have soil on top. We have a small area now that is being used as a dump site, and that is for waste management. It's not just for dumping. And we have young people there who are doing a good job. Now, if you go there, you'll find we have even fenced off that whole area. We have prepared the road. And besides that, we are spending a lot of money together with the Department of Nairobi Metropolitan. We are going to develop a modern market in Ngong. We will have lighting in Ngong. We are going to invest heavily to make sure we have public parking, because that town is rapidly growing, but we know where the problems are. And we have put a lot of money through the World Bank, and that is coming through the national government. But we are working closely with that project to make sure that we fix the problem.
And you touched on the World Bank. What plans have you put in place to encourage existing investors and indeed other investors looking at rapidly growing towns like Kitengela Town, Ngong Town, towns that have serious potential, and of course Kajiado County being greatly favored in the sense that its proximity to Nairobi allows it access to numerous facilities and indeed services.
Thank you, Lillian. We will be having an investors forum towards the end of October. And that is when we will want to see all those people who are interested. Many people have already been coming to the office, and we are discussing. We have some Chinese. We have people from Europe who are talking about solar and lighting and all that. We have people from the US. And we have very many people who are interested. We also have a lot of local people who we want to give preference in investing in our county. And because we are very close to Nairobi, we are having even people coming from Kiambu, coming from Thika, coming from all over the country. So we will be having our investors forum towards the end of October, and we welcome all of them to come and showcase what they have. We will say what opportunities we have, and they will say what they think we can do together. And together we will work and build the county. And
as we wind up, Daktari, visible changes that the people of Kajiado County have seen as of now under your leadership, and indeed what they expect to see in the next 5 years or even before.
Today I was in Kitengela doing a cleanup. And this week I will be going to the dump site to fix that problem. And one other thing we are doing is that we are decongesting the towns. Kitengela is one of them. We are planning to go to Ongata Rongai and also Ngong in the next few weeks. Security has improved. I know there has been sporadic cases here and there, but generally we are working very closely with the commanders, the AP commander, the police commander. We are working very closely to make sure that security has, is improved. So those are some of the things we have done so far. there are certain things we would have loved to do that we have not been able to do. And I know the people of Kajiado know that. We've been having some small wrangles, especially with the assembly, mainly because some people still think in terms of political parties. I don't believe in that. I believe that my mandate, given by the people of Kajiado, tells me that I should move straight and work. That is what I'm prepared to do. And I ask the assembly, actually, to come on board and let's work together and serve the people. We have delayed, we have some delays. Yeah.
As you call, as you talk about the wrangling, there are sections of Kajiado County leadership that are opposed to calls for a referendum coming so soon after the general election. What are your views on the calls for a referendum?
I think many people are taking sides without knowing the details of what a referendum really means and why some people are asking for a referendum. Even if we were to do a referendum, it would not be soon. It would take time, because what the Constitution says is that it would take quite some time. You would have to consult the National Assembly, you would have to consult the Senate, the county assemblies, collection of signatures. Even at the earliest, that would be somewhere near August next year. But one thing I would want to ask people, because I've been in a number of meetings and people have asked what I think about the referendum, is that I just don't want us to think about taking sides in a referendum, yes and no. Why are we talking about the referendum? The issues have to be seen in a historical perspective. Why did the first devolution fail? Are we about to see a repeat of history? To me, yes. If we do not address these issues now, if we do not discuss this openly without taking political sides, we are likely to see an abortion of devolution. Why? There are certain things that I think are not...
So you do support the calls for the referendum?
Yes, yes.
All right.
And I know that's not soon. It's not this year. It's going to be towards the end of next year. Because, one, there are three main issues that we are talking about. We are talking about more money to the counties. Why? 15% is not enough. It's not going to turn around this country. Believe me, it's not. Number two, we want more power to the Senate. The way it is right now, the Senate cannot protect devolution. And number three, we are talking about primary and secondary schools. I cannot sit back as a governor and see students failing because there are no classrooms, there are no teachers' houses in schools, and very many Form 1 places that are non-existent. We have so many children who finish class 8, but they cannot go to Form 1. What am I going to do as a governor? If the people of this country want to tell me to keep quiet as Kajiado children miss Form 1 places, I want to hear that loud and clear. Right. But according to me, I must do something about that, about housing, about classrooms, and about that. Right now, the Constitution does not allow me to do that because that is not a transferred function to the county. Right. That is why we're asking for that.
Okay. And thank you very much for your time. Of course, the people of Kajiado County, and I'm sure Kenyans, just waiting for the results, and that's what we hope that this devolved system of government would do for the people, bring power closer to the people, decentralize power. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Dr. Ari. We've been talking to Dr. David Nkedianye, Governor, Kajiado County. Thank you for forwarding your questions. And let's move on with the day's news tonight. Family members and friends of the late Obadiah Maina Munyo, who worked as the IT manager at the Royal Media Services, gathered at his family's Othaya home in Nyeri County during the ceremony of unveiling the cross 5 years after his death. Royal Media Services Chairman S.K. Macharia and his wife Gathoni Macharia led the rest of the Royal Media Services fraternity in commemorating the death of Maina.